and gentlemen, and welcome aboard the Fairweather Express. We are departing Skagway, making our way for Haines. It's about a 14-mile trip, which will take us 45 minutes. As we're underway today, I will be acting as your naturalist, and I will be pointing out some different sights and scenic areas along the way. Some of you know that this body of water that we're traveling on is called the Taya Inlet. The Taya Inlet is one of 3 separate inlets which makes up this part of the Upperland Canal. The other 2 are called the Chilkoot and the Lutak, and we will be traveling on those later on in our journey. It was Captain George Vancouver that first discovered this area back in 1792, and he named it after his birthplace, Kingsland, Norfolk, England. It is believed that an early cartographer mistakenly copied the word canal from his original map instead of the word channel. The word canal gives us the idea that this body of water was man-made, but of course it wasn't. It was actually carved out by glaciers 10 to 12,000 years ago. So the correct term for this body of water is actually a fjord, and this is the longest and the deepest fjord in North America. It travels over 90 miles long, and at some points reaches 2,400 feet deep. The area that we're currently traveling on reaches about 1,400 feet deep. The mountain right in front of us is Harding Mountain. And if you look up at the very top, you might see a light blue sheet of ice peeking out from underneath the snow. That is the Harding Glacier. So President Harding was the first and only president to visit this area, and that was back in 1923. The area of land on our left side, or our port side, this is actually the northern part of the Tongass National Forest. So the Tongass National Forest is the largest national forest in the United States, and it stretches over 17 million acres. If you have already been to Ketchikan, Petersburg, Sitka, and Juneau, you are in the Tongass National Forest the entire time. All of the Inside Passage is also part of the Tongass National Forest. It's a very well protected forest, and we are very proud of that here in Alaska. The second largest national forest is called the Tongass, and that one is just outside Anchorage and stretches for about 6 million acres. Just beyond the lip of the Tongass National Forest is the largest ice fields in Alaska. It's the Juneau Ice Fields, and it stretches all the way from Skagway to Juneau. It's about 90 miles. So the Juneau Ice Fields is the birthplace of some 38 glaciers, and that does include the Mendenhall Glacier. Many of the waterfalls on our port side are also feeding off of the Juneau Ice Fields. Our population here in southeast Alaska is about 80,000 people, and those people are spread out in 33 different communities. 30 of those communities are only accessible by boat or plane, leaving only 3 communities that actually have roads leading out of them. So Skagway and Haines are 2 of those lucky communities. However, it is quite the trip. Our journey today is 14 miles, but if you were going to attempt to drive that on the road, it would be over 360 miles. So even though we are connected to the rest of the continent, life here is similar to island life. We get all of our food and supplies brought in on a barge, and many people take the ferries and the waterways as their primary form of transportation. The population in Skagway currently is about 2,000 people, but many of those people are seasonal employees that come just to work through the summer and the cruise ship season. The population year-round is only 800 people. So Skagway has one hardware store, which acts as our Walmart. We have a grocery store. It has about 4 aisles. We do have a school. Our graduating class last year was 2 people. Otherwise, there are a lot of little tourist shops. If you spent much time there today, you probably saw the streets bustling with people. But at 8 o'clock when the cruise ship set sail, our streets become pretty much vacant. Haines has a population of 2,400 people, and that does stay fairly consistent year-round. The main industries in Haines are fishing and some tourism, versus Skagway, which is 90% tourism. So Haines does have 3 different museums. They have the Sheldon Museum, which houses our natives' history. They have the Bald Eagle Preservation. They also have a hammer museum. It has over 1,500 hammers. People often joke that Skagway is the Disney World of Alaska, but over in Haines you're going to be getting more of a true Alaskan experience. Haines is largely known for its wildlife due to its close proximity to the Chilkoot River as well as the Chilkat River. We do have about 30 or so seasonal waterfalls here in the Taya Inlet. We are approaching our first one coming up right here. This one is known as Long Falls. So Long Falls is the most spectacular waterfall that we have in the Taya Inlet today. It is over 1,600 feet, and it does feed off of the Juneau Ice Fields. We are coming up to another waterfall over on our port side. This one is known as Sawmill Falls. So it gets its name because there used to be a sawmill up in the mountain, and after milling the lumber they would send it down the waterfall where they would tie it up and then float it over to Haines for building purposes. So this is the highest volume waterfall that we have in the Taya Inlet today. Over on our starboard side, we are coming up to Taya Point, and that marks the end of our journey in the Taya Inlet today. Right off of that point, you'll see a cluster of rocks in the water, and that is known as a Wolf Rock. So here in the Taya Inlet, we experience what's called Semidiurnal Tides, and that means that within every 24-hour period, we're getting 2 high tides and 2 low tides. So it's actually switching every 6 hours. Now on an average day, our tide change is about 14 feet, but in extreme conditions, it can reach up to 27 feet. So when we're at high tide, Wolf Rock is going to be completely submerged in water. And when we're at low tide, quite a bit more of that rock will be exposed. Right beyond that rock, you'll see some mountains there and a body of water, and that is actually the Lutak Inlet. So that body of water stretches back behind the mountain for about 8 or 9 miles, and it connects to the Chilkoot River, which also connects to the Chilkoot Lake. From May to October, the Lutak gets a run of 5 types of salmon, the largest being the Sockeye Salmon. We get anywhere from 60 to 130,000 sockeye salmon, which travel up the river to spawn in Chilkoot Lake. So because of all the salmon, we also have a very large eagle population. Haines is actually known as the bald eagle capital of the world. We get anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 eagles, which come to this area to feed on the 5-mile stretch of the Chilkoot River. So that is the largest collection of eagles in the world, and this area is very well protected by the Bald Eagle Preserve. On our port side, you see the coastal mountains. The coastal mountain range stretches all the way from the southwestern Yukon through the Alaska Panhandle and down the coast to British Columbia. The mountains that you see in front of us are called the Chilkat Mountains, and they range from 3,500 to 7,000 feet in elevation. The area of land that you see beyond the cruise ship there, that is known as the Fort Seward area. So William Henry Seward was President Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State, and he was one of the people that really pushed for the sale of Alaska. We did purchase Alaska from Russia back in 1867 for only 2 cents an acre. Alaska is very big, however, and so that costed us a grand total of $7.2 million. It was in 1959 that Alaska became the United States' 49th state. The fort was built to help protect our border. However, it was decommissioned in the 1940s, and now it is privately owned. As we pull into the small boat harbor, we do ask that you remain seated until we are completely tied up to the dock. I do thank you for riding with us today, and I hope that you have a beautiful day here in Haines.